They use bathroom passes to try to get out of class and try to do things such as play with their phone in the bathroom or go see other people on the other side of the school. And I could tell you some stories about that. I'm looking at an article that popped up recently on BuzzFeed. The headline reads, "A teacher is giving students extra credit if they don't use the restroom during class, and parents are livid." This is written by Kelly Green of the BuzzFeed staff. The subtitle reads, "My daughter stayed in the entirety of the class despite being sick due to fearing losing the extra credit." So, what we're going to do here is we're going to go through this article. I'm going to provide you my position on this issue of offering extra credit to students who do not use the restroom. And then I want to hear from you all. I want you to make sure that you stay tuned to the end so that you hear everything I have to say. And leave your comments in the comment section to provide your own insight, your own opinions, and things like that. So let's take a look at this. It says, recently, Sita Zarkovsky, a pool programs coordinator in Eureka, California, shared her frustration with her daughter's math teacher. Why does it always have to be the math teachers? Offering extra credit if students didn't use the restroom during class. She tweeted, "If they don't use it, they get academic extra credit. I am livid, but my daughter is mad that I want to email the teacher and CC the principal. Am I wrong here?" So, Seats, as she is called on X, formerly Twitter, made this post, and as you can see, she has more than 14,000 replies from parents, teachers, everybody in between who also has their opinion on this. And I'm sure you have your opinion. And like I said, I would love to hear that from you. But this BuzzFeed article goes through a lot of what people have to say on this. So I'm going to go through a couple of points that are made. Here it says, many people replied in support of Zarkovsky saying, "Some kids may have a medical condition. Seems like this policy would be unfair to them." So that brings up an interesting point. You know, what do you do if a student has a medical condition? How can they earn bonus points? Where does that fall? You know, so that's an interesting point. It says here, they said that menstruating students were more likely to need to use the restroom, thus needing to use their pass. Yeah, this is true. So how do you account for that sort of thing? Is this policy unfair to females who are going through that time of the month? I don't know. You tell me. It says they also mentioned the harmful side effects of choosing not to go to the restroom, because obviously having to do so is a biological process. Your body lets you know when you need to go, and it is unhealthy to hold all that in. Also, it says here that, well, some people take the opposite side and they say, well, students abuse bathroom passes. They use bathroom passes to try to get out of class and try to do things such as play with their phone in the bathroom or go see other people on the other side of the school. And I could tell you some stories about that. Okay. Talking about some students getting out of class to go and end up on the other side of the school in the locker room with other people. Okay. It happens. Also, someone else said, well, you know, the one bathroom pass is enough and the incentive is okay because, well, students should use the restroom in between classes instead of during class. Apparently, there was it says here that a sampling of high school schedules BuzzFeed assessed from across the U.S. showed that schools generally offer around 4 to 10 minutes between classes, giving students a limited amount of time to travel. So, is 4 to 10 minutes enough time to use the restroom in between classes? Um, yeah, so there are all sides to this issue here. All sides. Some people agree, some people disagree. So let's get into what do I think. So this teacher, he or she, I believe, I'm not exactly sure, but that's beside the point. This teacher gives one bathroom pass per week to allow students to use the restroom. And if they do not use that pass, essentially, they can turn that pass in and get extra credit. Do I think that restroom usage should be tied to extra credit? I do not think so. Personally, I don't think that's a good idea. I think that if students are to earn extra credit, they need to do something, some type of work that is worthy of receiving extra credit. Like they need to do some extra assignment or some extra work, something that is educational. So it's strange to offer extra credit for not using the restroom. So I'll just go ahead and flat out say from the get-go that this is something that I don't think it's a good idea. But at the same time, I'm not going to criticize this teacher for doing that because I don't know their specific circumstances, and teachers have to get creative. They have to get extremely creative with their classroom management and how they do things because what works one year doesn't necessarily work for a group of students the next year, and what works at one school doesn't necessarily work for the students and the demographic at another school. For example, here you had some teachers in this article that brought up the whole they brought up an argument about students using the restroom between classes. And BuzzFeed apparently did some research saying that schools generally have 4 to 10 minutes between classes. Why can't students use the restroom between classes instead of during class? Well, I can tell you that in my particular situation, we don't have any time between classes. Our students go directly from one class across the hallway to the other. It's a rotation. So there's no time in between. I line my students up in my class, and when they are ready, basically in an ideal situation, all of the students move at once. My students go into the next classroom, while the students in that classroom go to a different classroom, and so on and so forth. And we have 5 classrooms for our 7th graders. So there's no time in between classes, and we have to come up with some type of system, some type of opportunity for students to use the restroom. And, our 7th graders don't have lunch until about 12:15, 12:30, and to make them stay in the classroom from 7:45 all the way to that lunchtime is completely unreasonable. So we have to do something. So I can understand, this may be a valid point. Using the restroom between classes may be a valid point for some teachers at some schools, but it doesn't work for everybody. And I don't know, enough information is not given about the specifics of where this teacher is teaching for me to make any kind of judgment on that. So, not criticizing their policy, I'm just saying that I don't think it's a good idea. It's not something that I would do because, again, I think extra credit should be paired with something that is deserving of extra credit, such as an extra assignment or something that students have completed, maybe to turn in for that extra credit. That's just my personal pedagogy. Now the other thing here about medical conditions, that's another reason why and students who are menstruating. That's another reason why I just don't think that this is a good idea, because you have students with specific circumstances that it's like you have to come up with exceptions to the rule, and it gets messy. For example, I have two students this year who have sickle cell, and one of these symptoms of sickle cell is that students may have to use the restroom more than the average person. So do I just make an exclusion? If the teacher had a student that had sickle cell, do they just make an exclusion? Like, what do you do? I think that it's too much to think out. And like, why would you tie extra credit to that? It just doesn't. I would hate having to do that, because then you have students complaining, well, how come they get to go? How come they get to do this and I can't? Well, I've got this condition. Well, if my mom brings a letter to the school, can I do the same thing? And some parents are willing to do that. They're willing to write a letter to say, hey, my so-and-so has this condition, blah blah blah. True or false, true or untrue, saying these things. And so it gets really messy. But either way, I have found a solution that works for me, that I use in my class for restroom usage. And so I'll tell you what I do, because I think it works for my students. I encourage, teachers that bring this up on the hallway, on our middle school hallway, about, well, students are always asking to use the restroom, like it's just too much. Like, what am I supposed to do? I tell them my strategy, because I think it's pretty good. So what I do is I have a clipboard at the front of my classroom where it's just a sign out sheet. That's all it is. And students can sign out twice per week to go take care of any business that they need to. Any business. So if you need to use the restroom, go ahead and go. If you are menstruating, hey, go take care of it. If you need to go to the nurse, you don't feel well, sign out, go to the nurse. You forgot something in another teacher's classroom, or you need to go talk to your coach or somebody, you need to go talk to the counselor, just sign out and go. But you can only leave the classroom 2 times per week. What that does, at least what I have seen, is it holds students accountable for leaving the classroom. It is a self-management strategy, because students can leave at any time that they want, but they need to plan that out, and they need to think about, okay, I'm going to sign out today on Monday, so I can only go one other time during the week. So it teaches them to regulate themselves, to maybe create their own schedule, to say, do I really need to go to the restroom? Can I hold it? Because I'm going to be using one of my allowances. And do I really want to sign out? Or, yeah, this issue that I'm having with the other student, maybe I can work it out myself instead of going to the social worker or the counselor to discuss this. And I witnessed, seen students use that logic, use that type of thinking. And that's the type of thinking that I'm trying to teach with this strategy that I use. And I think, I started out with 3 allowances, and I found that was too much. There was a time where I said 1, and then I have come to 2, and I think 2 is pretty fair. Keep in mind, however, that I am very reasonable as a teacher, and I don't always stick to this. It works for the most part. Classroom management strategies, you have to use a lot of them at once. There is no formula, but you have to have some things in place, and then you can always make exceptions, but you got to have something. So I do have students that have emergencies. Like with my emergency policy, if students have an emergency, they can leave the classroom at any time, and I make that very clear. If you got an emergency, get up and go. Because for example, if a student uses their two passes, two allowances during the week, and they got an emergency, they really got to go. You can go, but I'm going to be phoning home, or we're going to have to sit down and discuss this and figure out why this is happening, because we can't be having emergencies like this, or if there's just something, it depends student to student on what the situation is, but that is a general, it is a guideline that I have in class, just those two, and you sign out. And again, if there are some other situations that I handle on a case by case basis. So really, that's all I have to say. Do I think awarding bonus points to students who don't use their restroom pass, is that a good idea? I don't think so. It's not something that I would do. Do I think that it might be a little unfair? It could be. It just depends on how the teacher handles these kinds of things, like whether or not there's an alternative way students can receive extra credit if they have some medical condition or something like that. That's just too much for me to think about. Considering everything else that I have to worry about as a teacher, it's not something that I want to have to. It just seems like too much work. So that's it, and that's all I really have to say on it. But more importantly, I would love to hear what you have to say about this. Is this policy fair? Is it unfair? Do you agree with what I have said? Do you disagree? Are you a teacher that has your own restroom policies? What are those policies? Share your ideas so other teachers can get ideas from you and they can develop their pedagogy. All right, so that's all I really have to say. Again, make sure you leave a comment down in the comment section below. Like this video if you like this content. Also, subscribe to the Classroom Camp channel to support the channel and never miss out on all the news, reviews, fun content, free resources, all that good stuff that I will be putting out for you. Thanks for watching, and until next time.